Hey everyone, welcome back to Famous People, English Stories, where we explore powerful books and the stories of famous lives. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Today's source material. Well, it isn't exactly a weighty biography of Churchill or, a deep literary analysis of Dickens. But stick with us, because it tackles something maybe even more fundamental, the story of mastering your own thoughts, especially when you're under pressure. It's about winning that internal battle against, well, verbal disaster. So our deep dive today is all about high-stakes communication. It's really for you, the learner, the person who's always trying to get better, faster, clearer. We need to talk about that moment, that universal, absolutely crippling moment we've all faced. You're put on the spot, bang. A surprise question in a meeting, maybe an unexpected intro you have to make, a tricky client query, or even just, needing to pivot quickly in a conversation. And you realize you've got nothing, zero script, no pre-planned thoughts. And that horrible panic feeling just washes over you. What happens next? Well, our source today calls it a cognitive catastrophe, which sounds about right.
Your brain just desperately scrambles, opening up, and I love this description, like a dozen browser tabs all at once. Trying to find something useful. Facts, opinions, maybe awkward memories, they all flashed up. And your brain's command center, completely overloaded. So you either freeze up, total embarrassing blank, or worse, you start rambling, agonizingly. We've all been there. Okay, so our mission today is to swap out that panic button for, let's call it a reliable cognitive safety net. We're diving into this really powerful, actually quite simple system. It comes from a communication skills teacher named Vin Jiang. And this framework, it essentially trains your brain to think with structure immediately. So you can generate clear, concise, and confident answers faster than you can usually freeze up. It's about getting knowledge out quickly, sure, but maybe more importantly, it's about gaining control when the pressure's on. Okay, let's unpack this. Before we jump into the fix, the framework itself, what's actually going on in our heads? What's the fundamental issue this is trying to solve? It's not just about being shy, is it? It feels more physical.
Oh, absolutely. That's a crucial point. It's not really about not knowing stuff. It's about the brain's retrieval system kind of short-circuiting under stress. Vinjang really nails it by focusing on the physical, the neurological side of being unprepared. When that surprise question hits, your brain doesn't calmly start searching for the best answer. No, it triggers the fight or flight response. Your amygdala, that's your brain's threat detector, basically sees the situation, the social pressure, the risk of looking incompetent as a danger, and bam, it hits the panic button.
Right, the classic fight or flight.
Exactly. And when that happens physiologically, blood flow gets diverted away from your prefrontal cortex. That's the bit responsible for all the sophisticated stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Complex thinking, filtering information, organizing thoughts, making judgments.
So the part you need most in that moment basically just checks out.
Precisely. It gets deprioritized because the brain thinks there's a more immediate threat to deal with. So the mechanism you rely on for coherent speech just shuts down or at least gets severely hampered. And what we experience then is that feeling of panic, the inability to form clear points, the rambling starts.
And that immediately leads to those awful outcomes we all fear, right? Feeling incompetent, maybe looking incompetent, projecting zero confidence. Even if you actually know the topic inside out, it sounds like a really nasty feedback loop.
Yeah.
The panic makes you perform badly, which just reinforces the panic next time.
It is a vicious cycle. And what makes Zhang's perspective compelling, I think, is that he's open about having struggled with this himself. He talks about his own past inability to think clearly under pressure. So the solution he proposes, this framework, it feels like it was born out of real personal necessity. It's tackling a very common human failure mode. Think about it. When you don't have that prepared script, when your prefrontal cortex is basically offline, what does the brain do?
It just grabs anything, like those browser tabs.
Exactly. It falls back on just retrieving everything vaguely related, but with no organizational structure. That's the very definition of rambling. It's just a data dump without a filter.
Okay, so if rambling is the default panic response, then the goal has to be to install a new default, right? Something structured to fall back on instead of just chaos.
That's the core idea. You need a substitute for prepared content. Instead of defaulting to rambling, you default to a framework. It's like having a mental emergency procedure. It's that immediate, reliable cognitive safety net we talked about.
It makes sense. But if frameworks are so effective and everyone knows communication skills are important, why aren't people already doing this? Why does this feel kind of new to many people?
That's a really interesting question. And Zhang's own experience in his workshops sheds light on this. He apparently found that less than 10% of his audience, these are professionals, people who care about communication, were actually using any kind of structured communication framework regularly.
Less than 10%. Wow.
Yeah, it's surprisingly low. I think there's a psychological barrier. People often equate good communication with having, perfect knowledge instantly available or needing this amazing, spontaneous eloquence. They sometimes worry that using a structure will make them sound robotic or unnatural, maybe even inauthentic.
Right, like you're reading from a script in your head.
Exactly. But the reality is often the opposite. A good framework actually enables clear thinking under pressure. It frees up your mental energy. Instead of wasting cognitive bandwidth on how to organize your thoughts, which is incredibly draining when you're stressed, you can focus that energy on the content of your thoughts. Without a system, you're basically fighting that panic response barehanded. With the system, you've got a tool. You can manage the overwhelm. And that gap between knowing you need to be clear and actually having a tool for instant clarity, that's what this 3-2-1 system is designed to bridge.
Okay, I get it. You're sort of preloading the organizational structure, so you don't have to build it from scratch in the heat of the moment. So let's talk about this specific structure, the 3-2-1 framework. You mentioned it's versatile. Yeah, Yang emphasizes it's not just for like formal Q&A. It's great for those impromptu moments, maybe quickly generating some social media content or just handling a tough conversation turn where you have absolutely zero prep time. It's built for speed. Let's break down the name itself because it's pretty descriptive. 3-2-1. It means you've got three options for structuring your answer on the fly. You can go with three. Three sequential steps. Think like a mini process. Or you can choose two types or two ways of looking at something. A simple comparison or dichotomy. Or the simplest of all, one. Just the one single thing. Your main point, your core opinion, your single takeaway.
What's fascinating here is how the seemingly simple structure manages that cognitive scramble we talked about. It works by drastically reducing the choices your panicked brain has to make. Think about all the ways you could talk about a topic, a story, a detailed analysis, history, pros and cons, infinite possibilities. That's what opens all those mental browser tabs and leads to overload.
Okay.
The 3-2-1 framework acts like a powerful filter. It basically says to your brain, hold on, you don't need a perfect, complex narrative right now. Just pick one of these three simple patterns. Let's think about the numbers themselves for a second. Why 3, 2, and 1? Well, one thing is like your emergency anchor. It forces you to pick the single most important or maybe the most opinionated point first. Minimal effort, maximum grounding, it stops the drift.
Okay, the easiest starting point.
Exactly. Then two ways. Our brains are actually really good at binary distinctions. Good, bad, internal, external, before, after, smash it on, toasty it like a fruit. It's easy to generate two contrasting categories. Simple structure, but it sounds quite organized.
Right, leverages how we naturally compare things.
Precisely. And 3 steps. The number 3 is well known in memory studies, right? It fits easily into short-term recall. Think ready, set, go. Plus, outlining a process taps into procedural memory, how to do something, which tends to be more robust under stress than trying to recall abstract facts or complex stories.
Ah, so it's not just picking a number, it's picking the path of least cognitive resistance for your stressed brain. You're forcing it into one of three efficient, low-energy organizational buckets.
That's a great way to put it. And by choosing one of those buckets, you instantly provide structure not just for yourself, but also for your listener. That's why you can sound surprisingly polished, even if you literally just came up with the response seconds ago. You're borrowing the power of a known effective pattern. It's like substituting organizational skill for having all the content perfectly memorized.
Okay, but here's a potential issue. Is there a risk that this just becomes like structured rambling? You know, 3 bullet points of nonsense instead of one long stream of nonsense. How do we ensure the content is actually useful?
That's a fair question. And the framework doesn't guarantee profound insight every single time, especially under extreme pressure. But what it does guarantee is an end to the disjointedness. Structured communication, even if the points are a little basic initially, is almost always perceived as more competent than chaotic rambling. Why? Because the structure gives you, the speaker, a clear finish line.
Ah, yeah.
Rambling happens partly because the speaker doesn't know how or when to stop. The 3 steps, the 2 ways, the one thing, they each have a built-in endpoint. That reduces the cognitive load for you and, crucially, for your listener. The structure itself enhances the perceived quality, even if the content is simple.
Let's make this concrete. I love the example Jiang used in the workshop.
Mm.
Avocados, apparently chosen at random by the audience.
Yeah.
Perfect test, right? Low stakes, but totally unpredictable.
Exactly. It's a great test case. So someone asks you suddenly, tell me about avocados. Where does the normal, unprepared brain go?
Everywhere. Fruit, vegetable debate, guacamole price, where they grow toast.
Yeah, browser tabs again. Total chaos. The 3-2-1 framework cuts through that instantly. It forces you to start with the easiest option, the one thing.
Find one anchor point.
Find one anchor point. And the power here is that it can be an opinion, a specific use, anything narrow. It bypasses the need for some grand objective definition. So, in the workshop, the example answer for the one thing was immediate. It's incredible on a keto diet, specifically as a high-protein source.
Interesting. Not just it's healthy, but as a specific diet context.
Yes. And that's brilliant because, 1, it's a strong, specific viewpoint. It gives an immediate angle. 2, it defines the avocado functionally, good for keto, rather than trying to define it botanically, which is much harder under pressure. And 3, it probably taps into associative memory. Avocado makes me think of keto, which is faster than searching your semantic memory for general facts. That single point grounds the speaker, shuts down the panic. That's the crucial first step.
Okay, panic averted. But what if the person asking wants more than just, it's good for keto? This is where the framework's flexibility comes in, right? You can pivot.
Exactly. Your brain has settled slightly. The initial panic is managed. Now you can move to the next level of organization, which is often the 2 types or 2 ways.
And this shows it's not rigid. You establish the keto thing, but now you can broaden out a bit. So for avocados, what were the 2 ways?
The examples given were quite practical based on how people typically consume them. Way number 1, smash it on toast. You know, the popular, slightly processed way many people eat it. Way number 2, eat it like a fruit. Just cut it open, maybe scoop it out, add some salt. The more purist approach.
Huh. I like that distinction.
Yeah.
The civilized toast smashers versus the animals who just scoop it out. Kidding. But it makes the point 2 clear, contrasting categories.
Exactly. It covers the spectrum simply. Preparation versus raw consumption. Easy visual, easy recall. Your brain doesn't need to be a food critic. It just needs 2 distinct buckets. It simplifies the complexity brilliantly.
It's reducing that huge search space again. Just find 2 different angles.
Precisely. And most topics really can be broken down like this somehow. You're leveraging basic comparison, which is very cognitively efficient. Instant structure, sounds organized, minimal prep needed.
Okay, so we've had the single opinion, the 2 categories. What about the 3 steps? This seems really useful for work stuff, right? Explaining a process. Next steps.
Absolutely. And sticking with the avocado, the 3 steps focused on the preparation, how to actually get it ready to eat. It's sequential, action-oriented.
Makes sense.
So the process demonstrated was, step 1, cut it in half and get the skin off. Basic physical action. Step 2, mash it. The main preparation action. Step 3, salt, pepper, and lemon. The finishing touches, the seasoning, which apparently makes it unreal, according to the source.
Simple, clear, actionable. And again, it feels easier than trying to remember, say, 3 different types of avocado. It's tapping into that how-to memory.
You got it. It defaults to procedural memory, how do I do this? Which, as we said, holds up much better under stress than recalling abstract facts. You probably remember the steps to make your coffee even if you're half asleep or stressed, right? Same principle.
Yeah, that's true.
So that whole sequence, one thing, 2 ways, 3 steps, it gives you this incredibly versatile toolkit. You can almost instantly match the type of question to the best structure. Is it asking for an opinion? Go for the one thing. Asking for categories or comparison? Use the 2 ways. Asking for a process or plan? Use the 3 steps. It covers so many bases without you ever needing to feel lost or paralyzed.
Okay, the theory is solid. The avocado example makes it clear.
Yeah.
But the real magic seems to happen when you put this under serious pressure. Let's talk about that workshop simulation. Because they didn't just explain it, they tested it hard to really mimic that feeling of being blindsided, like a reporter shoving a mic in your face or a CEO asking an unexpected question. The setup was intense. The student had to start formulating and speaking your answer within just 3 seconds.
3 seconds. That's incredibly fast. That's barely enough time to even register the question, let alone formulate a coherent thought normally. It's designed to induce that panic state.
Exactly. Which makes the instructor's role here really important too, right? That affirmation they used.
Oh, definitely. The source mentions Zhang saying something like, "It's okay, you're never ready, no one's ever ready." That's psychologically brilliant. It validates the fear, normalizes it. It essentially says, the fear is normal, don't fight the fear, just use the tool. It separates the emotional response from the task requirement. You don't need to feel calm to act clearly if you have the structure.
Don't conquer the fear, bypass it with the framework. I like that. So the topic for this pressure test was travel. Let's walk through how the student did, applying 3, 2, 1 on the fly.
Right. So 3 seconds on the clock. Task. Deliver the one thing about travel. And apparently she nailed it instantly. The source calls it a boom moment.
What did she say?
Something simple and direct. The one thing about travel is it's magnificent. You can go anywhere you want. See? Simple, positive, opinionated. It provides that immediate anchor. No hesitation trying to define travel philosophically, just a strong personal take. Panic averted. Step 1 complete.
Okay, good start. And that momentum is key, isn't it? Once you get that first bit out, the brain starts working better. So, next up, the 2 types of travel. Still under pressure.
And she kept the momentum going. Again, leveraging that simple dichotomy. Her immediate answer was along the lines of, you can travel regionally and you can travel internationally via a plane.
Nice. Clear contrast. Close versus far. Simple versus maybe more complex. Plane involved.
Exactly. Clean categories, universally understood. It shows organized thinking without needing deep analysis. Just 2 distinct buckets. Very efficient.
All right, final piece. The 3 steps for travel. Distilling that whole complex process down.
And she did it brilliantly. Again, super concise, capturing the core sequence. Her response was, plan it, book it, go.
Plan it, book it, go. That's it.
Yeah.
So simple. But it covers the essential stages, doesn't it?
It's incredibly efficient. It hits the core actions needed for almost any trip. Maximum clarity, minimum words, minimum cognitive load, perfect for a high-pressure situation.
But the most amazing part of this story, according to the source, was her speed. She was so quick and confident using the framework.
Yeah, this is the kicker. Apparently, she was so fast that she actually interrupted the instructor who was still counting down. He's going, 3, 2, and she's already delivering the answer.
Wow.
That's powerful evidence, isn't it? The framework didn't just help her manage the pressure, it allowed her to process and structure her thoughts faster than the artificial time constraint. She wasn't waiting for panic to subside. She was executing the pattern almost instantaneously.
She effectively beat the clock because of the structure. That's incredible.
It really demonstrates how structure can overcome cognitive friction. It gave her an immediate, measurable edge in mental agility.
And this leads directly to what you call the confidence dividend. It connects the framework right back to that initial problem, the fear, the anxiety, the rambling. Jang highlights this difference starkly, right? Without a framework, you're basically scared. You don't want to communicate because it feels risky, like you'll be exposed.
Hmm.
But with a framework like 3-2-1, that perceived risk plummets. The task gets simplified. And suddenly you're not scared anymore. You're actually excited to communicate. It becomes
Yeah.
less of a threat and more of a, well, a manageable challenge or even a game.
And crucially, that shift wasn't just internal for the student in the travel example, it showed up physically.
Ah, yes, the body language. Tell us about that.
The source notes specifically that as she gained confidence using the framework, she physically leaned into the microphone. She even started walking towards the presenter as she spoke.
Instead of shrinking away, she advanced.
Exactly. She moved towards the pressure because the framework made her feel ready. That's huge. It shows how mental organization directly impacts physical confidence. When your brain isn't burning massive energy just trying to fight chaos and organize thoughts on the fly, that energy becomes available. It projects outwards as confidence, clarity, presence. That shift from fearing the spotlight to leaning into it, that's the ultimate proof of the framework's power. Organization conquers panic.
It really reframes competence, doesn't it? It's less about having some innate gift of gab or perfect recall, and more about having the right mental architecture ready to go.
Absolutely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, what this deep dive really highlights is that effective communication, especially under pressure, it's often less about the depth of your knowledge on a specific topic and much more about your ability to organize whatever knowledge you have quickly and clearly. You don't need to be the world's foremost avocado expert. You just need a mental structure that can handle any random input, avocados, travel, budget reports, whatever, and help you articulate a coherent response.
Structure over encyclopedic knowledge.
In many high pressure situations, yes. The 3-2-1 is just one example, of course. There are other frameworks. But this exercise powerfully demonstrates the core principle. Having any reliable structure transforms communication. It turns it from something that causes stress and makes you feel incompetent into something that can actually be exciting and demonstrate your competence. So for you, the listener, this is genuinely a shortcut to clarity. Having this simple 3-2-1 heuristic in your back pocket means you're less likely to go blank. You can stop rambling before it starts, and you'll likely see a real boost in your communication confidence, both perceived and actual.
So the goal isn't really to memorize answers to every possible question. It's to internalize these three simple organizational buckets. The one thing, the two ways, the three steps, so you can slot almost any question into one of them. It turns the terrifying unknown into a predictable, manageable exercise. Okay, that brings us to our final thought for you today. Something to mull over. If a simple, easily learned structure like 3-2-1 can help you speak instantly, confidently, clearly about something totally random like avocados or travel topics you had zero time to prepare for, just imagine the power and clarity it gives you when you apply it proactively. Think about that meeting you do have time to prepare for, that presentation, that important conversation. Instead of maybe spending hours trying to script out every word or anticipate every single question, what if you spent just 5 or 10 minutes thinking structurally? Use the 3-2-1 framework for your preparation. What's the one core message you need to land? What are the two main perspectives or argument that you need to cover? What are the three key steps or actions that need to happen next?
That's a fantastic application. Preloading the structure.
Exactly. By building that simple architecture beforehand, you turn what might feel like an overwhelming amount of information into easily retrievable, clearly organized points.
So the next time you feel that familiar panic rising, whether you're put on the spot or even just feeling overwhelmed by preparation, try shifting your internal question. Don't ask your brain, oh God, what should I say? Instead, ask it, okay, can I define the one thing here, or the two ways, or the three steps?
Huh.
Give your brain that structured prompt and just see how much faster it delivers clear, confident, and powerful communication. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.